Talk Recovery Radio. Live from the heart of the downtown east side, it's Talk Recovery Radio with Giuseppe Ganci and Darren Gaylor on Vancouver's Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. From the streets to the studio, bringing you addiction recovery stories from real people with lived experience and real experts on today's issues. Tune in live every Thursday, noon to 1. Powered by New West Recovery. Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio.
And welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, coming to you live every Thursday. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Gaylor. Hey, Darren, how are you?
It's good to be back, my friend. Good to see your face.
Yeah, we took a bit of a break. We're coming on to our 8th season now after this break. So we'll be doing the official count and numbers of shows and so forth. But I went to go visit my mom for a couple of weeks, and then I went to tropical Windsor, Ontario. Beautiful tropical Windsor. And Darren went to that horrible place, all dirty and polluted, called Hawaii. How was it, Darren?
I mean, are we planning our vacays now around the show together?
Darren, I plan 7 days a week. I plan playtime, work time, meal time. It's just, pretty busy times right now. But yeah, we, had a nice dual vacation planned at the same time. It was really great to go see my mom. And, one of the things that recovery helps you do is helps you, be there for your family and all that kind of stuff. Something, obviously for those that know recovery stories, there was, probably a good decade plus of just not so family friendly, and that's completely gone. So that was really nice. Going to meetings in a different community is always cool too.
Yes. I mean, we're friends. I've known you a long time. I know the background of your story, and I mean, seeing the pictures on Facebook and the visit back home and the cooking,
a lot of cooking,
and your nephew. I felt a moment when I was in Hawaii. Don't get me wrong, I was happy to be there, but I just felt, I guess, empathetic that I'm fortunate enough to live in the same city as my folks and my family, and so that allows me to when I go on vacation to get out of Dodge,
get away.
And when you have time off, you're obliged to go see your mom and your sisters, but you know what, is a beautiful thing, and I'm sure you'll travel somewhere hot soon.
Yes, I will. I hope so. Yeah, definitely. I just realized my mic was all the way over there. But it's definitely something that's nice. And, all the reasons, that for those of you that know geographical change, geographical cure, all those reasons why I left town no longer exist. So there's that moment. It's just like, should I go back, into Ontario? But I have fun out here too. So as you can see, the crowd behind us, this is the time of year where we start planning 2022. And it really looks like we're going to have full-on events next year. We did Recovery Day, a smaller version of Recovery Day because of COVID. But we're looking at having 4 stages next year. It's the 10th anniversary of Recovery Day, Darren.
Wow.
Darren's the MC on the main stage. Props up for that.
I just got a few chills there. Just
10th anniversary. So
yeah.
It's going to be, we're shooting big. And so, that's all happening right now. Meetings with the city next week. And so, it takes a year to plan all this stuff. We're going to be doing 2 sober prides next year. So that's exciting. One in New West, one in Vancouver. And another event that's coming up that I wanted to share with people within the Vancouver Metro Vancouver area is we're doing this thing in February where the name's not finished yet, but it's something like Building Recovery Capital Communities. And there's going to be 3 events, one in Vancouver, one in Kelowna tentatively, and one in Victoria, which is finalizing the venues. But it's just to talk about recovery in communities. at the family level, people with lived and living experience and so forth. But one of the events is going to be on Family Day, and it's going to be a chosen family theme. So many people in recovery talk about chosen family, and so we're working with the art gallery right now, and it's probably going to be at the art gallery. It's going to be in partnership with Vancouver Pride because so many of us have similar stories. So we thought, do we have a sober event? Do we have a pride event? We just thought, why don't we work together? Because we all talk about chosen family. So yeah, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be in February. So 3 events in February: one in Kelowna, one in Vancouver, and one in Victoria.
Right on.
Yeah, things to do, right?
Amazing.
So we are Talk Recovery Radio, come to you live every Thursday. We're not in studio right now because of COVID. Hopefully one day, Co-op Radio is actually having their AGM, so hopefully that's one of their conversations at the AGM. But yeah, you can catch us. We're powered by New West Recovery, Last Door, and Westminster House, and you can replay us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. But we're on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, all your streaming devices. Just go to talkrecoveryradio.com and you can catch all of our streaming devices there. So
and I hope our listeners enjoyed our replays over the last few weeks on Co-op Radio.
Yes, and shout out to Jordan, our show program coordinator for guests. Oh, we lost our guest.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I see 3 people here. 1, 2, 3. I don't see the 4th. Oh no. I wonder what happened.
I'll let him sign back in. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think, like, that we have 7, coming up 8 years of shows. Because, when we take a week off and there's a replay, like, I always wonder, because sometimes I don't get a chance to tune in or listen to the show, at that time. And to find out, what were we talking about 7 years ago, 5 years ago? Who are we talking to? What revelations did we come, in our own perspectives? Like, it's pretty neat, man. It's really cool to be a part of this.
So Jordan's going to be starting. We did it for a little while and actually got some pretty good traction online, but we do replay Saturdays. So we did that for a few months, and he's going to start that up again where he's going to post a show on Saturdays. And that way you can catch, some of the favorite shows that you may have wanted to hear on Saturdays.
The audio version, because, we don't want to see how we've aged over the years in video.
Oh, you know what? Well, it's both audio and video. It's both. Yeah, there's some pretty old archive pictures out there.
Because we were filming in the studio. Who knows how long ago, but I remember doing that.
Yeah, no, we were filming in the studio for sure in those cramped corners. Yeah. So those were some fun times, and we, I can't even believe we used to have personal stories coming to the radio station downtown during the week. Yeah. Like now it seems like, I don't know if we could get back to that now that Zoom's all happening and everything. Will people get in their cars and drive downtown for a radio interview? I'm not too sure.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I miss going into the downtown, area and going into the studio and going into the show and being with each other. There was a connection there that, as far as Zoom being able to connect, in a bigger, broader spectrum, there's still something to say about, sitting in the same room as those we're talking with. And I think the interviewees feel a little bit more comfortable in that space as well,
It was some good times that we are looking forward to, and Darren doesn't know this yet, but we might be finding a new studio. We're in New West, and the Massey Theater is now a community space. And so they have some great podcast rooms in there. And so I just got a message from Jordan. Jordan's going to try and get in touch with our guest to see what happened. He was on the show earlier. We did the sound check, and somehow we lost him. So maybe his internet went down or something like that. Not too sure. But and I see Jordan. Yeah, major professional studio back here. There's really not all these people behind me. Yeah, Jordan, he was there for sound check and then disappeared. Um, you'll call him right on things. Shout out to Jordan who's over
I
there.
thought every week that mob of people showed up behind you to watch you do the show.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a window behind me and
Yeah.
they're just all outside like back long time ago city TV in Toronto with the windows and the crowds behind them. I'm
You know,
aging myself there.
you were saying something. I don't know if it was before we actually, started the show or not. About going to a meeting outside of your own community, and I was thinking about this last night, like really trying to wrap my head around like what is it with the psyche? Because I've been to meetings, as I travel every time, but it doesn't matter whether you know, just because I'm in a like beautiful Hawaii, that is that why I'm feeling so good at being in a meeting. And I was thinking about like when you just brought it up, you're in Windsor, Ontario.
Yeah, Windsor's having a hard time. Yeah.
Having that same feeling though of I don't know, what is it? Have you thought about that? Like it's just another meeting.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's well, one of the things is just to be like, you sometimes get stuck at, you think anyway, that you're in this bubble and
Yeah.
like this is recovery and these are the meetings. And then you go through a phase where my meetings and my area is the best, my treatment center's the best. And then you finally get to a place where you're just like, they're all the best, and like I've gone to some meetings in Windsor where I'm just like, oh my God, because I'm used to the high energy here in New West Recovery. But this time around, like that didn't happen. I was just like, this is their meetings. They love that, and I bet you if they had a bunch of people in there texting and sharing and all that kind of stuff, they'd probably get mad. So
Right.
so I realized, just like the guests on our show, we say often, that we think, our recovery pathway is the best. And then we do all these interviews and we're like, well, he thinks his is the best,
Yeah.
and he's got passion too, not just us. And that's when you realize it's like, who knows why you end up in the pathway you end up. I don't know
I've
why some people go to meditation, some people go here. I don't know.
I've read through questionnaires and formats of different theories, and I've ordered books on different pathways because in the moment where I'm listening, I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like, like legit. Like I wouldn't recommend anybody doing 7 programs in the beginning when they're getting
Yeah.
clean, but like to sort of read into something that goes, in a different path spiritually, let's say, or dietary, and you know what I mean, where it's like I'm at a place where I can like really absorb as much as I can, and it only helps. Yeah, it's cool. And I think you speak to that's what traveling does. It broadens the perspective, you know what I mean, like you see how other people do it, or how similar that recovery is in another part of the world. Like, I mean, I've been at meetings where I literally could not understand what the people are sharing, and yet feeling like a message, like still,
Mhm.
still grasping, what's happening here inside this meeting. And yeah, there's something I think for me too, like the freedom of being in another part of the world at a meeting. It reminds me of how little freedom addiction gave me, or took
Oh
away from
yeah.
me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely. Holidays change, everything change, and it's nice to have a grounding thing that gets you grounded while you're even on that trip. Because sometimes trips can definitely get on your nerves, right? And
oh, big time, especially with 2 young boys.
oh, that's right. Yeah, definitely, especially with two young boys. I can just imagine they must have loved the water though, eh?
Oh, the beach. We buried each other in the sand. We hiked to waterfalls and swam underneath the waterfalls. Like, I I mean, I had moments where it was like, the stress and just being exhausted and overwhelmed and missing home, you know what I mean? Like just wanting, and those moments in between that were like literally making memories, it it was all worth it. Like, yeah, there's no reason not to travel and put yourself out of your comfort zone and out of your routine, and see what the world's like out there. Not to say that Hawaii's got this massive cultural change, but when I went to a meeting, there wasn't many tourists, you know what I mean? And you have those conversations with people born and raised in that area, and find the struggles, right?
Well, for those of you that are joining us now, we lost our first guest in the cyber world, but I could talk to you, Darren, for hours. So this is lovely. Jordan, our show guest coordinator, is working to get our second guest on the show now. So I think they just pinged us saying they're going to try to log in. So let's see what happens there. But you're listening to Talk Recovery Radio. If you're on the radio right now, you're listening to us on 100.5 FM. Vancouver Co-op Radio. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit subscribe. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live, give us a like. And another thing that I wanted to announce while we're trying to figure out our guests today, we don't do shows for a couple of weeks, and look what happens, Darren. Everything just goes to But tomorrow night, big night in New West Recovery. Dave P taking 38 years of recovery at Winners. That's tonight. And he is going to be doing a speaker meeting at Winners, the meeting itself is celebrating 40 years of providing recovery to the community. So if it's going to be at the Massey Theater, in the actual theater, so you can check that out. It starts at 8 p.m. I suggest getting there a bit earlier because it's probably going to be pretty crowded, and wear your mask and all that kind of stuff. And you can check that out, 38 years of recovery. And also very soon, I think it's next week, it's Hockey Helps the Homeless. They do big fundraising in all of Canada, but also a big night for people here in Vancouver area. They're raising like a couple $1 million, and some of that money goes to youth treatment programs to help kids that are homeless due to substance use. So go to Hockey Helps the Homeless, make a donation, and support Hockey Helps the Homeless. So we've got our second guest on the show. Cole, you got a camera?
Hey, yeah, it's not really working too well because how you doing, by the way, Giuseppe?
Well, you're here with Darren and Giuseppe.
Oh, hey, yeah, nice. Darren, how you doing, brother?
Good, Cole. I would say it's good to see you, but I can't see you.
Yeah, no, my phone's not really working probably. It's got a cracked screen and it's time to upgrade, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. Maybe we should establish whether or not, are we trying for Daniel as a second?
If he comes on in the waiting room, we'll have a group conversation. Let's have a conversation with Cole, and we'll get back into this. Oh, there he is. Hey, Cole.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this is to Talk Recovery on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We're starting the show, and we have our second guest on first. Cole Goodwin, welcome to the show, pal.
Thank you, Darren. It's really good to be here. I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to be on your guys' radio show. I know you guys have been on the air for a while, and the best thing I can do is, I hope there's a lot of new people. And the best thing I can say is, when you work the program, you stay clean. You just do what you need to do. You follow your support. You just follow what you need to do. Follow the steps. Find the right sponsor. You will have the best life that you can ever dream of having. And your hopes, dreams, and goals, you'll knock them all out of the park. It's just your life will get unbelievable, and the blessings do not stop. It snowballs. Of course, you're going to have dips in your recovery. You're going to have struggles, obviously, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and the light at the end of each tunnel is 10 times brighter, every time.
Well, and this is, we had two personal stories booked for the show today. I mean, this is what I've always appreciated about the personal story. It's unfiltered. It's real. It's raw. It's how it is. I mean, I don't think you're trying to sell, being clean when it speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Cole, you got clean, 10 years ago now? What was it like in the beginning? I mean, it's one thing to say, you're in the groove of recovery, but just let's get our listeners a little bit of like, was it easy in the beginning? You know, did you even have any dreams? Like at the point of you getting clean, like what was your biggest hope?
My biggest helps, you know, in my early recovery, I had a lot of struggles. I had an issue with not following the rules. I had rebellious issues. I had this ego that made me just want to live in my own way and not live in anyone else's way. And by me wanting to live in my ego and in my addictive personality, it was hurting my recovery, and it was keeping me away from the right people. You know, but through doing the steps properly in my early recovery, I mean, before I went to treatment, you know, I almost died multiple times, overdosed many times. I almost died. And all my best friends at the time, they all left me. Like, they didn't want to deal with me. They didn't want to be around me. And then it was all just acquaintances that I had friends with, right? And when I entered recovery, I was worried about not being able to have fun anymore. And boy, was I ever wrong about that. I found out that recovery is supposed to be fun, and it is very fun if you're hooked in with the right people. Yeah, I mean, that's how, yeah, entering recovery, I was like, wow, this is a new life. And I was really excited about it. In my early recovery, about 3 years, I think I was going to a couple meetings every day. And I liked going to meetings. I enjoyed it. I had to resort to prayer many times to my higher power. You know, everyone has their own kind of opinion of what their higher power is. For me, it's God. That works incredibly good for me. It's given me a lot of gifts of recovery. And when I wasn't able to live in the solution, even when I was trying to, that's what made me worry about my lack of self-control. And I realized that I had to rely on that power greater than myself. When I started doing that, I started praying. Everything just kind of fell together like puzzle pieces after that.
Right on. And I mean, what was your beginning? Like, were you, did you get some help from family? Did you go through government services, detoxes, treatment? What was your course that led you to where you are?
Yeah, so I did have my family help escort me to the first treatment center that I went to. So I was in treatment for 11 and a half months of the beginning of my sobriety. So 11 and a half months straight of treatment. After that, I lived on my own, and then it was not going so well for a couple months. Moved out of that place and then moved into my own place near the recovery house that I had attended. So it was good. I was very hooked in still, even when I was living on my own. I stayed hooked in to the community, was going to meetings all the time. And that's what it looks like for the first few years of my sobriety. I lived locally, stayed within the community, stayed hooked in, went to meetings still, kept close to my support group, and my detox was done in treatment.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, so many people are dying from overdoses. Like, addiction's it's a deadly disease. And it seems like everybody just wants to get back to work and get back to school and get back to the gym and like just get back on life, you know. And it's just like people are dying, and this is a huge issue. And here's what happens when you actually don't do that. You know, you stick around and you take some time and you take this seriously. Like, it can kill you, but you have fun doing it. And it's nice to hear that. And, you know, because everything, like, I just got back from Ontario, and everything should, like, you go to treatment for 2 weeks. I mean, I was talking to people in the meetings. I'm like, so what do you guys got for treatment here? It's like, oh, there's this place. And I'm like, oh yeah, how long is it? They're like 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks? What are you gonna do in 2 weeks? They call it treatment. And it's and you know, there's so many overdoses going on over there. So you took time, and if you would have taken 2 weeks, Cole, do you think you'd be where you're at today?
Like, absolutely not. 100% no. Like, not even questioning that. Yeah, like, I needed that amount of time. Every day that I was in treatment for 11 and a half months, every single day was needed.
Yeah, there's sometimes you learn more at the tail end than you do at the very beginning, because you just have that sense of clarity that you don't usually have in the beginning due to psychosis, paranoia, and everything else that goes along with that. So congratulations to you on that. And you got a lot of stuff going on today. We'll get into what's going on for you today and so forth. Really looking forward to hearing that piece. I wanted to just talk about your parents, if I may. So your parents, how involved were they? Did they love you from afar? I hate the word codependent, but something like so. So what did your parents? Are your parents healthier today because you're in recovery? So what did your parents do?
Absolutely. Yeah, they were supportive in my recovery. They always supported me coming to visit them whenever I wanted to. And they've been very close to me, wanting the best for me. And my relationship with them today is incredible. They were very helpful in my recovery. And without them, I don't know where I would be, right? I am aware that you can still get into treatment through government funding. But to answer your question, yes, they were very supportive of me, and my relationship with them is amazing. They've benefited themselves from me going to treatment. Like my parents are, I would say, in a healthier place because partly because I went to treatment. Definitely, yeah.
The stress that they were going through with their concern for you is non-existent. Maybe now, maybe it's just regular parent stuff like, why are you buying that car, or like these ideas. So how old were you when you got sober, you got clean?
21.
21. Okay. So first time in treatment, I mean, 21, that's pretty young. You got a
Pretty
lot,
young.
right? I mean, I know the old guys are, it's too late. I'm too old. I've missed it all. The young guys are, I'm too young. There's so much out there to try and experiment with. How did you get influenced to stay the course with that, sort of mental process going on?
Really good question. Yeah, because I had some of those thoughts as well. I just kept my eyes on the prize, knowing that I was going to live a much better life if I stay on the right road. Also knowing that the fun does not stop, and knowing that I will die. I will literally die if I go back to where I was. And I was afraid of death. The biggest thing was death, a fear of death. Yeah, I knew I wouldn't live very long if I was to go back.
Yeah, I think, society questions, when people OD in addiction, like, why don't they change their lives? It's because they're still in addiction, in an addictive state of mind. There's nothing too dangerous or too risky or too close a call. Usually if you do recovery right, or you get clean and surrounded by the appropriate influences, then that's when the fear kicks in, like how I was living my life and the risks that I was taking. Now there's an emotional response to it,
Yeah, well, you have things to lose, friendships, bonds, things that you didn't really care about, and when you're in active use, like that changes because you have some investments and people in your life that you want to keep around and so forth, and you want to be there for, so yeah, because I mean, people are using and they know this stuff could kill them, so fear of death is, how do we do that? Like you said, fear of death and so forth. What helped you? Did you fear death when you were ODing?
No, good question. Yeah, so when I was in addiction, I did not fear death because I felt, I was young and I felt like I was invincible, kind of thing. But when I was in recovery, the fear of death was a good motivator in helping me stay focused on the prize, knowing that I knew, like I just intellectually, like I knew that my life would be way, way better staying on the right road as opposed to not. And yeah.
I mean, you hear a lot in the world of recovery, like relapse is, high, is a high percentage, right? It is a rarity to meet someone that their very first introduction to recovery, is held, which I don't know. I don't roll the numbers, but I've met more people that have relapsed. That being said, right, your story therefore is one of persistence, determination, and you talked about early on in the first few months out of treatment, like going through some struggles. Now, these are probably struggles that would be most people's story of why they relapsed. Can you talk about those struggles and how it was that you were able to get through it, where maybe, a higher percentage of people would have folded?
Yeah, no problem at all. The biggest struggles that were holding me back was my ego with chores. Like, I felt like I was better than chores. I felt like I just wasn't comfortable living outside of this weird, like, egotistical mind that I had. And it was holding me back from learning, holding me back from, willing to listen to the right people and listening to proper feedback. And seeking happiness, temporary happiness through unhealthy things, all kinds of behavior, living in my addiction with seeking things outside of myself, trying to make myself feel good temporarily. And when I started to realize that, things are only temporary, I need to focus on the long lasting things, which is recovery and enhancing my spiritual condition. Once I steered my focus to that, and even when I steered my focus to that, I still wasn't able to live in the solution. I was still acting out in my shortcomings and my defects of character. And then that's when I resorted to prayer. It's just all about the prayer.
So I was going to ask, so that, to pinpoint, that specific incident or person or situation that, like, snapped you out of that ego. It was just like you'd become so, let's say, isolated on your own, but because of that ego, that you were sort of just only left to, if you're going to stay sober, like, you're going to have to turn inward. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had to turn. Yeah, like, all my own strength was not working for me, and I was almost, my own strength was not working, so I had to resort to something beyond my own power.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so today you're a singer, you got lots of activities going on. You retired at 31 years old. He's retired, Darren. So what's going on for you today? So let's talk about your singing first. No, let's talk about retirement. How did you retire at the age of 31?
Well, okay, so I think I used the word wrong. Retire.
Oh,
he quit doing construction.
So what I mean, like, I had investments for a long time, right? I've had investments for years, and I did research into the investment world with precious metals and some other stuff. And through my investments have just been performing so good, and I decided to just study it that much more. And now I make enough passive income where I just never need to work ever again. So that's why I use the word retire. It's passive income. I still, I stay busy with studying the market, like, 7 days a week, because it's a healthy obsession. And that's what I do with my time. So it's kind of like, that is my job, kind of. My hobby is my job, just monitoring. I don't really have to, but just for curiosity purposes, I study the market and stuff and make sure everything's still all good. So that's why I said the word retire.
well, we have a show on healthy habits when they're not healthy, so you can replay that later on. I'll send you the link. So now I've known you for a long time. You've always been singing. So how's singing?
Yeah.
And I like a question I like to ask performers.
Do you call it singing, Cole, or do you call it?
No, it's rapping, right? You're a rapper. Would you be a rapper?
Yeah, it's both, like rap, hip hop, like singer. Yeah, both. Yeah.
So how is it being an artist in a hip hop, rap, lots of weed going around and all that kind of stuff? Without how is that? Like, how do you participate in the entertainment world, substance free, with people who may not be substance free behind the stage? And it's a really big issue for a lot of people that are, in their early 20s, up and coming people that want to perform, go to clubs. So what do you do? Like, somebody pulls a joint next to you. What do you do?
Really, really good question. I'm glad you asked that. I don't recommend anyone pursue that. I don't necessarily want to say line of work, but I don't think anyone should pursue that hobby unless they're very, very grounded in their program with, like, I could say multiple years of clean time, but I don't know if that's as important. Just a really solid program of recovery, at least done the steps once. At least once you have a really good connection with your higher power, really solid, healthy foundation of recovery. If you have that, then it's possible for you to attempt to pursue that hobby. Now, what do I actually do in the situation where someone's like drinking beside me or whatever? I pray. I pray before, I pray during, I pray after. I don't stick around necessarily after I'm done. I do go there early, obviously, to mingle. Sometimes I stay to mingle after the show's done, but I don't spend too much time in those atmospheres. Like, I'm not a clubbing kind of person, even though I might perform in clubs or bars or whatever. I don't gravitate towards those atmospheres much, but I will just pray in the moment, pray after, pray before, and just remind myself of where that drink is going to take me if I do drink. And I just try to distance myself from it as much as I can without being weird in the social situation, right?
I mean, I think it should be said that, you know, getting clean or sober and whatever pathway is chosen, that like we should be able to, you know, live our dreams, right? I mean, I'm only assuming that this is a passion and has been a dream of yours, you know, to perform in this way. But we've spoken about ego and being detrimental in the beginning. So, I mean, who's to say? How do you know that that you are safe, that you are, you know, determined to pursue your passion and not allow ego to come through within that industry? What's your insight on your experience there?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. It's the only way I could be confident that I'm in a safe place when I'm in those situations sometimes is how I feel about my relationship with God, how much I prayed before going. That'll give me a good sense. Having people with me that can keep me accountable. Anytime I'm hanging out with anybody that is not in recovery, I always like make it and let's say we're at a restaurant or something where they're serving alcohol sometimes. I make it very clear I don't drink. I cannot have even one sip or whatever. I make it very clear to whoever it is that I'm with that I cannot have any of it.
Yeah.
And if they don't respect that, then obviously I can't have that person as a friend in my life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a common occurrence for anybody, you know, getting clean and sober. And I would suspect that, you know, to actually be the person on the other side and actually be the person performing that, you know, if it's a passion. I mean, I watched a little intro on one of your videos at a show, and it was just a shout out to all those people that are struggling, or, you know what I mean? That this is that your performance or the song that you're going to do was, you know, was about hope and, you know, never giving up. And it was sort of like, I mean, you're putting it out there. It's what your music's about. It's what your lyrics about. What kind of feedback do you get from just normal Joes that are in the audience? Do you notice something going on there?
Absolutely. It's planting a lot of seeds in people. You know, when I'm up there and I'm performing, I'm dressed the same way they are, like, and just whatever, like they're surprised to see someone who's their age or whatever, and they're dressed the same as them. And they're like, oh, weird. Oh, you can actually do this kind of stuff and be sober at the same time? Wow. And then they start thinking to themselves that, hey, maybe being sober is not that bad. Almost everyone I meet it's very strong seeds are being planted in them about sobriety and about how it's not that bad being sober. That's the kind of feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people.
Well, there's a whole sober curious community going on out there where curiosity, I mean, we you know, not everybody in that photo is sober, you know, it's just they want to participate in a substance-free event. They want to support a substance-free event. It's also, you know, people are, you know, getting drunk and high can get pretty sloppy, and some people don't want to be in that environment and so forth, and so, you know, these sober spaces, you know, are starting to become more popular. I don't know if we'll see sober concerts anytime soon, you know, in arenas or anything like that because of, you know, money. So, you know, part of your singing career, you got some links and so forth. So what can you give a shout out to where people can find your music?
Yeah, so Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and I had a link on my Facebook for a while as well.
And
But
what's it called? It's called
a link tree.
Okay.
It's in my bio of my Facebook.
Okay. And they
yeah.
just go to Cole Goodwin.
No, sorry, yeah, the artist name, A Goodwin I Speak Truth is my artist name on
Goodwin I Speak Truth. All right. So I got to ask you, Cole, because this is, a big part of your life, and I follow you on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And this happens with a lot of people in recovery as they go to meetings for a couple of years, and then and just a disclaimer out there: I don't represent Narcotics Anonymous or anything like that, but it's not a religious organization, and it's not a way to make you become Christian. And I'm not Christian, and I've been going to meetings for a pretty long time. I used to hate Christians, just so you know, but I've gotten over that because it was absolutely based on stupidity, and it's all based on marijuana and vodka. That's pretty much it, conversation at the bar. Do you mind if we talk about that? Okay.
I'm totally okay with talking about that.
So you've done a 180 in your life. I don't know if you were a Christian a long time ago, but when I knew you in this New West recovery community, I don't think you were. So why did you go into Christianity? And I noticed that happens to people where they no longer consider the meetings as spiritual as they want. And so what was your story?
Yeah, so you're right. I was not a believer in the Lord when I was in recovery. Even for a couple of years, I didn't come to meet the Lord until I was about 3 years into recovery. And you mentioned some really good points. You pretty much hit the nail on the head, actually. I felt like I got more of a spiritual awakening when I was going to church. And I am a believer in the Lord. I do believe the Bible is God's word. And I do agree with you. It's the program's not a religious program, and I do my best not to try to push it on people because, the Bible does tell it. The Bible is very clear about loving everyone as yourself and having the same love for each and every person. We are all equal. I know that the steps do teach the same thing, and the steps ultimately have given me the largest spiritual awakenings that I had. And without doing the steps multiple times of the program, I wouldn't have been led to God. But yeah, it was a better sense of spiritual awakenings for me, I would say. And just a feeling of like knowing that I found the truth. And like I've studied pretty deep into why I can be confident that it's real. But yeah, I mean, that's I think that kind of answers your question there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you currently participate in both the 12-step fellowship and your church?
Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
And okay, so my question, because I mean, I've known a lot of people that, they've been introduced to recovery, and usually, that's when options open up. Hey, I kind of, gauge with this a little bit. Oh, I feel more connected here. And after doing, 7 years of this show, I appreciate that more than anything, that get clean and provide yourself with choice and the freedom to choose. So, but what is it that keeps you doing both? What, you know what I mean? Like, explain that, because I think it's important that there's a use of both your spiritual connection within the church, and also like a just a maintaining of a program of recovery.
Yeah, they're both equally important, right? I need to remember where I came from. I need to remember step 12, well, all the steps, right? But I need to remember that there's always addicts out there that are needing help, that are needing input along the way, and to be taken through the steps. There is a lot of that needs to be done at all times, and the reason why I still gravitate and I still attend my church, or it's not even just about attending a church. It's just about staying in tune with God's word. And when I stay in tune with God's word that much more, it helps me be of service in the program that much more. And since I've become a believer, I like to think I've become a better role model for recovery. My values, even when I was about 4 years into my clean time, I think, in my opinion, I think my values were still not very healthy. And when I started, yeah, when I found God on a deeper level, my values have gotten substantially more healthy than where they were. Now, when I say my values were not very healthy, that is what most people would consider okay and completely fine. People who are not a believer in the Bible would consider certain behaviors I think are bad to be normal, right?
Right.
And I think a good barometer for one, if you're listening, if you know, here, if I would have met you and had this conversation 10 years ago, like I would have stopped listeing to you. Like I just would have been like, not interested, right? And I think so for
I
your
don't blame you. I don't blame you.
so if you're listening and watching, you know, like check your barometer, because you know, you know, Nick, Darren knows Nick. You remember Nick? You know, he's the Christian, right? And I was just like, what's wrong with you? Why would you go to church after doing heroin? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like there's so much better stuff in life. And so like that's how I learned to be respectful of people, because you know there's going to be people that go to meetings and then they go to yoga. There's going to be people that go to meetings and they go to like meditation retreats in Costa Rica or something like that, and everyone's got their thing, and you got this, and that's great. And you know, I think that's, you know, the promise of recovery is freedom. You get to choose what you want to do. So you know, that's really inspiring that you chose this, and that's what you want to do, and no judgment to you, and you know, just an applause to you for doing that, and so forth. So so the people in church, let's go to them. So are they like, you're in recovery because you're a drug addict? You know, that is that like a you know what's the word I'm looking for there, like an opening liner, you know, for a conversation? What's that like?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah, like I seem to meet a lot of people that are fully understanding of it. I meet other people that have had similar experiences with their addiction in the past, and I have good experiences meeting people in the church that understand where I'm coming from and can totally respect it, and they're okay with having me at their place, at their family's dinner, at their house and stuff like that, even after they know that I've had a dark past. And yeah, I mean, when you're
Life's
asking,
definitely changed, because if I go back to when I was 13 to St. Angela's Church in Windsor, Ontario, and said, "Hey, everybody, like I'm a drug addict," like it wouldn't go over well. So maybe things have changed.
yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, and when you're asking me, these are like amazing. I'm really happy about these questions you guys are asking. Like, thank you so much for asking.
Well, we're a pretty good show.
Yeah, for sure. And like when I'm answering, I'm trying not to. I don't want to be pushy to anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying, so it works for me, and that's it. And Giuseppe and Darren, you guys are saying the really right things. You're saying that recovery gives us the option, right? And my option was this, right? And what you mentioned, Giuseppe, is back then. You're like the churches were like that, and yeah, you know, I tell people all the time. I say one of the biggest problems with Christianity is Christians themselves. Yeah. So many of them are giving Christianity a bad name because they're not doing what Jesus taught, right? I don't want to be preachy. I'm just saying.
I've heard that same comment on, you know, like when we have the topic of anonymity in the 12-step fellowship, you know, that if you know, you wear an AA shirt, or you wear your key tags out in the open, or whatever it is, that like you're sort of responsible to act, you know, for that fellowship. But I mean, I understand now, no matter where you go, no matter what the building is and what you go into, people are people, right? And you know, that's just it. Some people are going to be welcoming, some people are going to judge you, some people are going to need your help, and other people are going to shun you. And that's in the program of 12 steps. That's in any form of pathway of recovery. Not everybody's doing everything that they're supposed to do. And, you know, I appreciate the, you know, the reach that you've kept, you know, participating and remaining in the 12-step fellowship. Because I just recently had a conversation with somebody who came into recovery in the 12-step and went, you know, the church pathway, like completely, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, well, not at all am I being biased, and not at all did I say, oh, that's a wrong move. I'm like supporting that. I'm just wondering, like, do you think you can help as many people, there as you would in if you continue to go to meetings? Because not everybody's announcing themselves at church where their struggles are, and so I don't know if that's why you keep that connection there, because yeah, for sure there's going to be struggling addicts like coming into church to find a solution, but I don't know if it's as obvious in that setting as it is in a meeting.
Oh, we lost Cole's video. Cole? Well, for our first show back, it's been a fun show today, eh? You know what? We're actually coming on to the hour. So,
Yeah.
So I think we lost Cole. Cole. Well, everybody, if you are just tuned in, you're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, and the show's over. But you're listening to us on 100.5 FM. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, give us a like, and you can restream our shows. Jordan, our show coordinator, is going to be doing replay Saturdays on our Facebook page. Just search Talk Recovery Radio on Facebook. And that was Cole. Great story. Cole's Cole's back in the waiting room. We'll do an official goodbye. Let's see if he comes on.
When we were in studio, we never once lost a guest.
No, we never. Well, no, we did once. Remember the one on ayahuasca? We had to lose him. Yeah. No disrespect to ayahuasca, but
no, I don't know if he ever really was.
He made it to the front door. Yeah, he made it to the front door, but sadly he wasn't allowed to come.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. No, sorry about that. My phone died. Right.
I thought.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. But yeah. So Darren, back to what you were saying about like how it's better to be in. You were saying that how do you still help as many people, more of a reach with people in recovery, right? Yeah, that's extremely important to still stay hooked into the program. Yeah, because there's a lot of people that relate to you. Your story directly relates to them so much. And on a volume scale, I would say that recovery has more of that than the church, but you can still do it in church. But I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I'm glad you came back to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
We're coming near the end of the show, and I mean, another reach would be through your entertainment and like the lyrics and the message that you have in your songs and your performance. I mean, good on you, man.
Good on you. Yeah, good on you.
Yeah, like I was around at your beginning, and I just thought, like, this crazy individual like is gonna have some struggles along the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, to hear
I did.
Your intelligence and behind how you make a living. I mean, I'm a little blown away that you've but I'm not at the same time. Like, this story is there with everyone that sort of like kept the course and never gave up and did not make excuses to pull the plug and fold and to just keep grinding, if that's what it feels like sometimes in early recovery or wherever we are, and that at the end or somewhere in the middle, there's a dream fulfilled, there's a story to tell, there's hope to be revealed, and you're another great example of that, Cole.
Yeah, Darren, like, thanks so much. And Giuseppe and Darren, like, always, my whole recovery, I've always liked both of you guys so much. Like, even when I was doing bad, and even when I was not doing as well in recovery, like, both of you guys, I still always liked you guys. Like, we never got into arguments. I don't remember anyways. I don't think we ever did. No. Yeah, I mean, Nick Raymond, Dave Pavlik, a lot of people were stuck and they didn't give up on me, right? Those people that don't give up on you are so important, right? And yeah, it's what I have today. Like, I was just traveling I went on vacation for like a month. I'm moving out of the country. Like, I'm going to live in paradise for a while. So yeah, things are moving along.
That's the dreams, and dreams come true. So thanks for being on the show. You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, powered by New West Recovery, Canada's recovery community, the last door in Westminster House. And we're coming up to our 8th season, hundreds of guests, thousands of shows. No, thousands of listeners, hundreds of guests. There we go. And we'll see you next Thursday, Cole. Great to see you, Darren. See you next
Thank
week.
you. Thank you so much.
All the
Don't
best, dude.
forget, tonight is 40th anniversary for Winners. Dave P's taking his 38-year cake.
Which is also
Massey
on Zoom.
Theater. Which is also on Zoom too. Yeah. So we'll see you at Dave's Cake. Take care, everybody.